So it's December 22nd. Let's talk about the clown show, never ending fiasco animal shelter. I am going to really review what happened in the commissioner meeting on December 18th, Wednesday, December 18th, in some detail, looking at some video from the meeting and so forth. But I want to talk about two things real quick before jumping into that. The first thing I want to talk about is that I think a lot of people know now there was some sort of incident at the shelter today where somebody was bitten on Sunday. 34-year-old, I'm told, rumor mill, it's Alex Price, the infamous Alex Price of we're looking for another job in, I guess, law enforcement or something, and arresting Roger Vogel or having him arrested. So I don't know a lot of details about it. I'm sure it'll come out. It is, no matter who's running the shelter, there can be incidents that take place there, but it's just event after event after event involving the clown show Claremont County commissioners running the shelter. So that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to hit on before jumping into looking at the meeting and the details is the bid. So the bid package was supposed to come out on Thursday, the 19th. There's a thing on the website, a bid section of the Claremont County Commissioner's website that has it on there, but you cannot download the bid from here. You have to request it from Angie Livesay, the I don't know how to run a shelter director. And I did, and I got back a out of office from her that she's out through Thursday. And but that if I was requesting it, it actually said in the out of office, somebody else will get the packet to you. Of course, if these people weren't a clown show, they would have just put the packet online, knowing this is of great public interest. But because I think this whole bid thing is nothing but a David Painter poison pill, really, who in their right mind would want to work with David Painter? I mean, he clearly is going to want to look to somebody to run the shelter that is just a yes man that will do whatever he says and it has no real authority. And you see it because they keep doing dumb things. They're going to expand the outdoor cages, maybe get them closer to the gun range to traumatize dogs. There's changing the volunteer policy. If they cared about actually running the shelter correctly, they would want a partner who could do that stuff for them and could get that stuff worked out and figure out the right way to do things. As I go through and look at the meetings and what Angie Livesay, the meeting on from December 18th, and what Angie Livesay said, I think you'll be almost stunned at how bad it's become there by their own measurements. By their own measurements, the shelter is a mess and a disaster. So let's get into the video from the December 18th meeting. There's going to be 15 quick clips. I have sped them up by 25% so the people don't actually talk quite as fast as they appear in this. And the first, I think, 6 clips are going to be people talking at public participation. All of the clips are in chronological order from the meeting. I could have shuffled them around a little bit, but I ended up just keeping them in chronological order. And as we look at the clips, especially the public participation up front, I'm going to probably be hard on some of the people that are coming to public participation for a lack of focus, a lack of reality check. But I apologize in advance. I know you love the animals and want the best for them, but come on, some of the stuff people are saying in public participation is just a complete embarrassing waste of time. Okay, so let's jump in and start with the clips.
It has come to our attention that a new volunteer policy will be presented today and be put for vote by the commissioners. And I think that's long needed. So I really appreciate the efforts in putting that together. You guys should be the ones creating those policies and running the shelter. So thank you for that.
Okay, let me stop there. No. Are you an idiot? The commissioners should not be the ones writing these policies. They should be having a competent and professional humane society that they partner with running the place, writing these policies. Are you not paying any effing attention? Why would you get up there and say, you're the ones that should be doing this? I guarantee you that Claire Corcoran, David Painter, and Bonnie Batchelor should not be the effing people writing volunteer policies. And I don't know if people don't think, or that's the way we are in America today, but why would you get up there and say they're the ones that should be doing this? No. And I'm gonna vent a few times as I go through these clips, but I've said this before. Everybody speaking at public participation should be razor focused on the county cannot run this shelter anymore. We need to have an outside professional humane society run the shelter to stop the clown show. So all this other stuff is just noise. It's all just noise and distraction to talk about these other things. But let's keep going. This is clip 2. This is the woman saying that she took a half day off to be able to speak.
I work full time. I'm taking half of the day off. So I am burning half a day of vacation to be here and speaking on behalf of the dogs because I love those dogs.
So I appreciate that people have to take a half day off to come speak because the commissioners only have their meetings at 10 a.m. Let's think about this. This problem at the shelter, the problems have been going on for 4 years that the county has been in charge. They've been going on for 10 years plus when you count that the humane societies were always challenged by the toxic and underfunded relationship with the county. So, but it's been 4 years. How many sessions have the commissioners had to allow broader citizen input on the shelter? I'll tell you, zero. They have no such sessions. They have no such night sessions. You know what they did have a session on? I don't know how long ago it's been now, but on the Newtonville septic system, they had a night session so that they had a community session where the commissioners were there to talk about that. Apparently, that's more important to David Painter than letting the community talk about the shelter. But we know why they won't have any sort of thing at night, and they make people come in at 10 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday to be able to say anything typically. It's because they don't want any feedback, because they hate the citizens. Remember, I'm a conservative, Dan Bongino rule. Remember, all the politicians ultimately hate you. They hate you. They want to kiss your baby. They say they love you. They say they're going to do things for you. They say they're going to care about what you say, but in real life, they hate you. So that's clip 2. Clip 3 is her talking about bringing us together in focus groups.
I think our goal is to bring us together. And I know I'm running out of time, but I forgot your name, but you have mentioned a lot of times about having like focus groups. I'm a training moderator, but I'm biased. But I do have friends that work on the industry. I'll be more than happy to connect and make that happen.
Okay, now I don't want her to get mad at me. I don't want the people in public participation to get mad at me. I appreciate that they come in, but if you believe that these guys give a rat's ass about having a community focus group at this point in time, I don't know what you're smoking, but you should quit. Okay. These people don't care. So to sit there and act like you're having a discussion that you can negotiate with them, or that they really give a rat's ass about what you're saying or what the community is saying, you are deluded at this point. You are deluded if you believe that, and you got to get your head out of your, what. They're not going to do. They're not going to be, don't look for them to be calling you about your moderator skills or who can come moderate a community session. They do not care. They do not care. If they cared, they would just fix this. By the way, they could just fix it. They don't even need a session with the community. They need to get a humane society that knows what the hell they're doing and that is properly funded by the county. And we'll talk about that more as we go through the clips. Next one I put down is a Rodney King. If anybody remembers Rodney King, so this is another woman from public participation in the fourth clip, and she's talked lots of times. She said she's a conservative, more than me, she said at one point. But she goes through this thing, and just watch what happens here. She talks same kind of stuff she always says about how we all should get along, how we can be buddies, how we all have the same interest, and then she does this.
And I wasn't going to throw this out there, but I think I will. I want to work with you guys. I think a lot of people here want to work with you guys. So I'd like to put the negativity behind us. And I would like to approach the three of you to shake hands and let's start over and get some good things happening. Are you guys amenable to that? All right.
I got the coldest hands in the world. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm always on. I want to work with you.
Thank you, Dan.
So if you think that shaking hands with these people at this time is the way to fix things, you have got to be effing out of your mother effing mind. Okay. These people are not good people. In this kind of Pollyanna, let's shake hands. Can't we get along? Let's get a moderator. You are not helping. You are not helping. You are enabling. They must laugh at you in the back room that you actually think that they give a rat's ass about what you're saying or this handshake stuff. Let's all shake hands. Let's all get along. Maybe we should all get a picture together and sing an effing song up in front of things. You have got to be, I know, I don't, again, I'm apologizing for my ripping on some of these people that speak at public participation, but you've got to stay focused. These are brutal scumbag politicians. If you are deluded and you think they're anything other than that, then don't come anymore. Find somebody that's got more chutzpah to get up there and give them the business over the only thing that matters. This never going to get fixed until they get a competent, humane society to run this place, which they're probably not going to do because I don't think David Painter wants to do that. I think he hates the animals or something. Maybe he had a bad incident with a dog or something, or his ego is just so big he can't let it go. All right, then we have Tracy McCullough. I'm going to let this play. She gives them the business pretty hard about the treatment of the animals and about the volunteer policy.
What we are talking about is this kind of treatment. And Andrew, if you want it, you can go a little bit further. This is what we're talking about right here. It's hard to look at. Imagine if you're a volunteer and you have to come in and see this. What you were saying is exactly what's happening. They're in their crates 23 hours a day. They spin, they're not socialized, they eat their cages, and this is what happens. Here's another picture of what happened. You can show that second one. This is what it looks like. This is graphic. You can look away if you like, but please don't, because this is what's been going on for years. This is why volunteers have left. This is why volunteers are crying. This is why volunteers have post-traumatic stress because of this. We can take it down if you want. Everybody's got a picture. You can roll it up. Thank you, Andrew. I have those pictures because we're forgetting what we're here for. These animals are suffering. They're chewing their cages. They're tearing out their own skin. This is not how you handle a shelter. This is not how you handle our volunteers, such as Rescue Me, such as CARES. They come in and do all this work, and then it's just like, well, we're going to continue to put more limitations on what you can do as a volunteer. And why is that? So in the contract, revocation of volunteer eligibility, these are some of the things that will preclude you from working. Any inhumane treatment of a CCK animal, causing harm to any CCK animal.
By the way, those are exactly the things the commissioners and Angie Livesay do. Disrespectful conduct, sexual or other unlawful or unwelcome harassment, disruptive behavior, like calling 911 on a long-term volunteer that was just trying to tell Mr. Price what they usually do, waste of taxpayers' money, and an act of brutality. Accessing restricted areas, CCK, which are all going to be restricted pretty soon. You're not going to be able to see anything anymore. And the one that I thought was really interesting is using CCK equipment for non-shelter purposes, which is actually happening right now. It's an Echo Pod. It's not a PA, but definitely is being used for Mr. Price to train for his next position as somebody in law enforcement. By the way, Alex Price should come as close to being in law enforcement as I should become an astronaut. The guy is just distinguished himself as a clown.
In the meantime, while we sit and go, thank you so much for taking responsibility. Yeah, thanks for finally taking responsibility, but it's always been your responsibility. You taking it does not change that. You saying it does not change that. You've always been responsible. You're responsible for this. You're responsible for broken hearts. You're responsible for post-traumatic stress. You're responsible for people not wanting to take their dogs to the shelter in Claremont County. You're wholly responsible for that. So yes, you are right about that. Cruelty is cruelty, whether or not you have a good intention or not. For 3 years, people have come up here in tears, begging for help, begging for extended hours. Yeah, 3 years. You can write that down. Since 2021. And it has come to this. It should never have come to this. This should have been helped a long time.
By the way, it's 4 years if I'm counting 21, 22, 23.
I go.
and 24.
Think of how
We're
much
going
better
into
you be in the
25.
community if you would have helped instead of hindered. And now with this 20-page contract, you, by your own actions, would not be qualified to be a volunteer at your own shelter. So that's all I have to say. But we need to keep on bringing this to the public and keep helping those dogs. They can't help it. And again, dogs do not vote. They're nonpartisan as far as I'm concerned. They need to be helped right away. It's dire. And I thank everyone who's worked so hard. I will say thank you so much for putting your hearts into it, because it's a very hard thing to see it and be helpless and still love the dogs more than you love your own mental health. So I thank you so much for what you've done. I will say thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay, so I think that, Tracy did a good job there of hitting them. But the key thing, I just keep re-echoing this, is that only a change in by having a humane society run the place. As an aside, everybody sit and think for a second. How often have you seen elections change things in a big or material way? Okay. So this idea that, who votes, all this kind of stuff, these guys are going to get voted out. I said back during the election, these guys weren't going to get voted out. The system in Claremont County is low information voters because there's no news media, there's no coverage. So I appreciate everything people are doing to try to bring attention to this issue. Also, things don't change quick, and there hasn't been enough consistent pressure. We're 4 years into this, and we still have people wanting to shake hands at public participation. No. Still wanting to get a focus group going to try to save this. No. That is wasting time. We have got to up it, and we have to look at, when somebody went to the sheriff's office before, I told them beforehand, they had to look at what statute the commissioners are specifically breaking. And I think that they are specifically breaking the statute relating to companion animals, not feeding them properly, not caring for them properly. But when they went to the sheriff, they didn't go with that. They went with other things. I'll talk more over time about how to ramp up more what's going on, but people have got to get to the point that they realize you can't. I don't know. I've said it probably a dozen times. You can't go into the commissioners meeting and shake hands with them, think that they're on the same page as you. They are not. They don't give a rat's ass, and they think that you are a dumbass when you are doing that stuff. Now, the sixth public participation is somebody that talks. Let me just play it, and it's interesting because after this, Angie Livesay is going to give her presentation.
I was expecting this to be after Ms. Livesay's presentation, and I was going to have comments and questions about that. But since we're before it, I'm not sure why you did that or if there was any reason for it. But my comments are based on what she's going to say. One other thing I wanted to comment on is that back when Ms. Livesay was hired to be this administrator, she mentioned to volunteers that she didn't have experience in a dog shelter. She had management experience, but she didn't have experience in a dog shelter. I have 35 years of management experience, and in all my 35 years, I never went into a role and immediately said I was changing everything that was going on, especially by individuals that were there for free, not even being paid. These people are coming on their own time and energy for free. But instead of embracing them and instead of getting them to tell you what they know so you can be a better leader, all we've seen is changes and policy adjustments. Well, policies are great, and that's fantastic that they get written up. Wonderful. But actions need to happen. This shelter is dying, and it's just a sin. It's just a sin. I mean, a good leader listens to their employees, and in this case, free employees. There's so many things. There's just so many things. I know we don't want to beat the $20,000 to death. We don't want to beat the $60,000 to death, but for God's sake, we need an answer. And maybe she's got it. I hope so. If so, well, even if not, I'll probably be back next week with my thoughts.
Okay, so one of the things she pointed out that I think is important is that Angie Livesay talks after this, and that's the next set of clips. So they've done this. Normally they have these special presentations and stuff before they have public participation. Not this time. Why do you think that is? They don't want you to be able to respond to idiot Angie Livesay and what she says. I think the only thing she brings to the table is a fierce loyalty to David Painter. And so they put the public participation first. And the woman is right to point this out because she doesn't understand why the public participation is before the actual presentation. Well, I'll tell you why. Because these people are pieces of shit and they don't want you to be able to respond to the idiotic things that Angie Livesay says that is 100% bullshit propaganda. So that's the parts that are public participation, okay? And the highlights from public participation. I am looking at some of the comments that people were typing, and somebody made a comment, soon they'll be back to calling it the dog pound. They do. They call it the dog shelter. I went while I was playing that clip and looked, and it says it refers to it in the legal notice as the dog kennel, okay? And we're going to talk, and I'll talk more about cats as we go here in a little bit. But they already do that because they've dumbed us down over 4 years so that we're never going to go back to having a real shelter that we can be proud of, even remotely. We're just going to have the David Painter idiotic clown show. Now, the next set of clips are going to be Angie Livesay's presentation, which is a joke. This woman, I don't know what she brings to the table. She goes on TV saying she doesn't know what she's doing. She must be, I don't know. You're going to hear her talk about when she got hired, I think, in February or something. But apparently she's David Painter's girl and has a fierce loyalty, and that's what matters probably to David Painter, not competence or capability, but an amazing resilience and willingness to put up with shit when you're completely incompetent. Okay, so let's get into Angie Livesay's presentation.
So board, you'll remember back in February, I was promoted to the Deputy Assistant County Administrator position. And at that time, one of my departments became the animal shelter, among a few others. So I got in and learned.
What do you want to bet this woman's never ever going to be working in the private sector in her whole life?
We did see some issues, and that is what led me to be the acting administrator sometime in the summer, I believe July. Time is escaping me a little bit. Since that time, we have been looking for an administrator. We actually, as you know, put out the legal notice, goes out tomorrow, for management to be brought in. So we do recognize that needs to happen. But since July-ish, I've given you all a lot of updates, a lot of recommendations. And today I'm going to kind of do like a year-end review of where we are. So some of this you've heard and some of it will be new. Okay, so year-end review, intake and outcome. So I ran this report on the 13th. At that point, we had 788 dogs that had come into our care, with 86% coming in as strays. So board, I think, one of the first practices that I changed was for a while this year, we were taking owner surrendered dogs. So owner surrenders are when people, for whatever reason, can't take care of their animals anymore. They would bring them to the shelter. We're not obligated to take those dogs, and they were putting us way over capacity. So we stopped that practice. We do refer elsewhere as needed to bring, and that's largely had an impact on our numbers and our ability to manage the number of dogs that are coming into the kennel.
Okay, so let's hit on that real quick. So she said, okay, I don't know, she got promoted in February, saw some issues. And here's the dumbest thing that just says how horrible of a person she is. That the first thing she did was disallowed owner surrenders, okay? Disallowed owner surrenders. Do you know what that means? If you are an elderly person, for example, that can no longer care for your pet, okay, and need to turn it into a shelter. I don't think people do this with glee, okay? They won't take it anymore, okay? We already know that they don't take cats. But this genius, Angie Livesay, who is apparently a horrible person, okay, is the first thing she does is ending owner surrenders. You know, the first thing you would do is figure out, should have been, how do we get back to reaching the numbers and the capacity that we had under either of the previous prior operators? We're going to learn in a second here, they're at a fractional level compared to the Humane Society operators, but they're trying to figure out how to reduce even more the number of animals that they take. So let's go back and keep listening. So the genius's first step was to get rid of owner surrenders, which is absurd, which is obnoxious, which is a staple of a shelter as far as I have seen in my experiences. So now she's going to get into some stats.
As of the 13th, we had 443 adoptions. This is one of the things that I think the volunteers have been incredibly helpful with. There's a network of people that are really, really great about putting the word out about our dogs. Our staff, a lot of people go into making that happen and getting happy outcomes for the dogs. 214 have been owner redeemed. 13 have been euthanized for medical behavioral reasons.
Okay, so let's take those numbers. If you add up all those numbers, this is going to be real important, these numbers I lay out. All the numbers she had on the screen. It was 670 total. Let me go back here. I'm gonna rewind a little bit so you can see the chart up there. Okay, if I can do it right here. Okay, so that's if you add those numbers up, it's 670 total. I don't know whether youth and I should be added in or not, but 670 total. Okay. In 2020, the last year of Claremont Cares, they did 1,123 dogs. By the way, these numbers that she put up there are a couple weeks short of a full year, but she's got 670 dogs. Okay. 2020, Claremont Cares had 1,123 dogs their last year. That means that she's currently only doing 60% of the dog number. Okay. Now, let's go Claremont Cares. They also did cats. They did 1,203 cats, 2,326 animals total. So Angie Livesay's Idiot David Painter shelter is processing through 29% of the animals. 29% of the animals, when you count cats and dogs, is they did under Claremont Cares in the Claremont Cares last year, which is 2020. 29% of the animals. Half of that is just they don't do cats anymore, and they're only doing 60% of the dogs. But what is idiot Angie Livesay's first step? Quit taking owner surrenders. Quit taking owner surrenders. So that's the reality of how dumb these stats are and how bad they are. So let's go on, and I'm going to keep this up here. She's going to talk about staffing.
As of the 13th, we had 443 adoptions. This is one of the things that I think the volunteers have been incredibly helpful with. There's a network of people that are really, really great about putting the word out about our dogs. Our staff, a lot of people go into making that happen and getting happy outcomes for the dogs. 214 have been owner redeemed. 13 have been euthanized for medical behavioral reasons. So where we are with staffing now, we have 4 full-time kennel attendants in place working. We have a registered veterinary technician. Christine is here with me today. Christine started in September, and it feels like she's been much longer. We have veterinary.
By the way, most people just started recently because they all quit.
Technician assistant
and they have
on
to
staff
keep
as well
hiring
full-time.
new people.
We have the chief dog warden, 3 deputy dog wardens. Board, you'll remember that a couple of weeks ago, we changed some positions and created an administrative assistant replaced with the full-time receptionist, which is a little bit higher of a pay class. And we still have the receptionist full-time, part-time receptionist as well.
Okay, so I'm going to roll this back a little bit just so that's up on the screen. So if you add these all up, 4 kennel attendants, a registered veterinary technician, a vet tech assistant, chief dog warden, deputy dog warden, add all that, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, administrative assistant, 11, receptionist part-time, 11 and a half, okay? If I take count that Angie works there, that's 12 and a half. In 2020, the last year that Claremont Cares was there, they had 21. They had 21. So we have like 40% less staff also under the clown show, David Painter clown show. So that's another element of this is they staff a lot less. And that's obviously probably one of the issues you have is when you can't keep people and you can't get people. So let's go on.
Actual bills from the vet is just around 86,000 for the year
spending.
to date. And again, this was when I turned in my presentation late last week. Vaccination medical supplies. Christine can maybe explain this if anyone wants to know, but every dog that walks through our door receives vaccinations, flea treatment. Every dog that walks through the door to prevent as much disease as we can. We certainly send out a lot of samples if we suspect that different things might be happening with individual animals. Just around 576,000. And then donations to date, just around 31,000. Board, I'm going to be doing a donation acknowledgement for the year in full in January, so we know.
So I want to stop this here. We'll keep this up here. So add up those numbers just on these 3 line items: vet bills, vaccinations, medical supplies, and payroll. That's $760,000. Okay. So that's like probably, well, I've done the calculations. They hide numbers and so forth. I think they're spending 2.5 to 3 times the amount of money that Claremont Animal Cares wanted at the end of 2020 to continue into 2021. So this is the David Painter big government. You know, it's funny, I'm a conservative Republican. I think David Painter's a liberal Democrat. I've actually had people tell me that he fakes being a Republican, that his whole family is Democrats. And it sure would look that way based on his good big government perspective of doing a shelter. So I believe that they probably spend at least 2 times, probably 3 times the amount of money that Claremont Cares wanted to be able to run the shelter. And then look at this donation number, 31,000. So guess how much Claremont Animal Cares brought in donations in its last year, 2020, 983,000. So look at this, 31,000 versus 983,000. What an abuse this is to the taxpayers. This is a complete abuse to the taxpayers, that we have lost 97% of the fundraising under the David Painter idiot system. So from 983K, I apologize for being redundant, but it's shocking. $983,000 to $31,000. And when we're going to talk later about the 20K and the 60K, those aren't current year. It's because even when people do donate money, it takes these clowns 2 to 3 years to figure out how to spend the money on something somebody gave the money to. Or they first steal the money, as they did with the Purina money, and then try to claim they didn't steal it and put it back so they can use it again years later. But to lose 97, one of the things you don't understand, if anybody doesn't understand this, is you cannot, a big reason for a competent humane society is that a competent humane society can do fundraising and they can use the money. Look at that example I keep giving, 983K versus 31K. It is an absolute embarrassing joke by their own metrics. The metrics they're putting up on the screen
That exact
say
number,
they are
in case anything
incompetent
else comes in over the
failures.
next couple of weeks.
Okay, so the 11th
Yeah,
clip
hi,
is a web
everybody.
person
My name is
talking about how
Ursula
to
Miller,
run on the
and
web.
I've been with the county now 2 months. And I just want to point out that I was brought in to help improve communications overall for the county and specifically for the animal shelter. And an important part of that is our website. So hopefully in the future, we'll get a newly holistically redesigned website. But in the meantime, I am working feverishly, and David can attest to it, to improve the web page as it is. So that's in process because it's an important marketing tool. The other important marketing tool that Angie alluded to connects to Pet Finder, which is a common is. So that's in process because it's an important marketing tool. The other important marketing tool that Angie alluded to connects to Pet Finder, which is a common way that people search for dogs if they're looking to adopt. And we've got a disconnect, and it's really unglamorous, technical, behind the scenes effort to figure out what's going on with the Shelter Love software and how it's pulling or not pulling correctly into Pet Finder. So we are very much working on that. So more to come on that. Hopefully it'll just be links and you can see how beautifully it works once we get it done.
Okay, so let's pause here for a second. So we're 4 years into this and we're trying to figure out how to get the website to connect to something called Pet Finder. So their own story says they're incompetent. Their own story says they can't do the job. And so we're doing looking for Pet Finder to figure out how to get Pet Finder. And so that's kind of clip number 1. And then clip number 11. Clip number 12 is this little video.
We're also doing creating what we call collateral in the world of marketing. And one of those is a short video that David's going to play in a moment of one of our long-term residents, one of our long-term dogs. We're trying to do a variety of things.
Only at the Claremont shelter do you talk about one of our long-term residents, long-term dogs. It's like a sentence, like you're a prisoner, you know. So I don't know what that means. Long-term resident, long-term dog. If you're there for a year, then they make a video of you to try to get you sprung to get so you can go on community control with an owner.
Communications and marketing
but let's
plan to
keep
put it on paper
this.
so that we have a good roadmap. But David's going to just show you that video. It's not displaying as we had hoped on Pet Finder yet, but it is on our YouTube channel and we are promoting it in social media. But we're going to keep finding other ways to share it so more people can see the dogs that, especially the long-term dogs. So David's going to roll it right now. Thank you.
Jake, look at how muddy, shitty. Like Jake's having a good time, but in prisoner in some sort of gulag. Let's listen to see if any guns go off from the gun range. I guess they filmed the video when nobody was shooting at the gun range. Okay, so that's the Jake thing, and I'm kind of I don't want to sound bad here, and no disrespect to the woman that was speaking, but I'm 59, and somebody asked me to go do some. I'm sure there's a lot of 59-year-olds that can do whiz bang internet stuff. I'm not one of them. And this whole area of pets, if you can't find volunteers to do this stuff for you that are whiz bang internet people, it's your problem. And I don't know that this older woman who's the new communications person for a few months is going to be able to solve the problem. And to come in and play one video is asinine. When I work for somebody like IBM, if I would have done this, I got one video, it'd be like, you're fired. The person, if they're competent, be coming and saying like, hey, we're deploying now. Within 2 days of any pet coming in, we release a video of that pet, of that animal, so that we can try to move them through. We have 200 videos going. We have this, we have that. Not I have one video. Like, who the hell cares that you have one video? Okay, so now we're going to start getting into the volunteer policy. This is clip number 13.
Sure. So you all know a lot of work went into the volunteer policy, and we took some information from some different counties as well as some different nonprofit shelters.
She is so full of shit. The Hamilton County policy, that's the same people that were running the Claremont County shelter. It's like 5 paragraphs, and we have like 12 pages of GORP that you would need a lawyer to review. It's the David Painter Idiotville policy for volunteers, not a competent document that is welcoming to the volunteer community. These are volunteers, okay? When I think people that run nonprofits know that they have to protect themselves, they have to have the right things in place, but they need to be welcoming to a volunteer community. These guys think they're doing the volunteers a favor, and they act like they're preaching down to the volunteers. I still remember in a prior meeting where they're talking about if a volunteer doesn't do what they're told, they must leave the building immediately. It's just asinine, and I'm sure she didn't get any input. And you know what? I know that somebody from Claremont Cares, now Cincinnati Cares, has repeatedly offered to help them personally. And Angie Livesay never responds, okay? And by the way, that's the mark of an incompetent person. Competent people reach out to experts for help. Incompetent people do what she's doing. And so, they talk about they got all this input. I'm guarantee you they didn't get input to have a 12-page policy from
kennels around here.
Okay, so this 14th clip is Painter starts talking about the 20K versus 60K stuff. The 20K that was stolen from Purina and then returned, and then the 60K for the washer. And, apparently it's the person who gave the 60K's fault, because they should have given more money, because they should have known the county can't do anything for 60K. They have to have more money than that.
2 things came up, and we'll just talk about 2 numbers. We have spent a lot of time on these 2 numbers, but I'd like for you to go back. One of them is $20,000 and the other one is $60,000. Could you just talk about the commercial washer and dryer, the modifications to the facility that have to be made, that had to have a full architectural contract on it, and the fact that we still have this money, it's in the dog and kennel fund, and it's earmarked for that installation?
Yeah, it's actually in a separate budget, and Mr. Linney can probably comment on some of this. But
by the way, the 20K, Angie Livesay in a prior meeting said the money had been spent for other purposes and it was gone. Now, all of a sudden, the money is apparently still there somewhere, coming back, whatever. Another thing you want to remember about politicians and their sycophants like Angie is they lie to you. They lie all the time. I don't think it really matters if they're Republicans or Democrats. That's why you want to look for people that don't come from a political background, because they are not the kind of dirtbag liars that most political types are. So now the 20K that was stolen for other purposes is now back.
Is going for the washer dryer, and also part of the outdoor kennel project. So I believe that our first invoice that we received from the architect will be paid from that money. We also
So later you're going to hear the 60K is not enough to put the washer dryer in, but she just said we're going to use part of the 60K for the outdoor kennel project. You cannot trust anything these people say, and just assume that they're trying to do funny money
got the purchase order
stuff
yesterday
with
for
it
the
and
actual
steal the
washer and
money.
dryer. Now that we have the specifications, now we just figure out who's doing the work. So a lot of this is our facilities team navigating behind the scenes.
So remember, if the purchase order for the washer, if the washer actually costs more than 60,000 or 60,000, why are you going to have money from the washer money to pay for part of the
Money you
outdoor
touched
kennel
on last
expansion?
week and our
But
plan
let's
for
keep
that moving
going.
forward. Yeah.
And one thing I just want to make sure it's fair that these two numbers are only a small portion of what each of these projects cost. Neither one of these, the 60,000 and or the 20,000 washer and dryer installation and or the outdoor kennels, will this money pay for. The cost of those projects is well in excess.
It will be a great contribution, but yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
So I just want to point out that David Painter's a effing moron. So if you were in a nonprofit and you were going to put in the play area, the Purina play area, would you then say, hey, you don't need to give us as much money as it's going to cost to do it? Because it's just going to be, just give us a fraction of the money. Or the 60K for a washer. Oh, don't just give us a fraction. This guy is so full of shit and he's such a liar, or he is so idiotic that he doesn't think when you raise money for a project, he thinks it's okay to just raise a fraction. And then you tell everybody we're getting a washer, we're getting a play area. But in reality, you don't have enough money to do it because you're too dumb to actually raise the amount of money for the project. No humane society would do that. No humane society would claim that they got donations, but they were just a fraction of what was needed to actually
I think that's
do
one
the
of the
project
hard parts of our washer and
that
dryer
they
is
wanted to do.
the amount of infrastructure that's needed is going to be to the point where it might have to be bid. And that adds a different element that is going to slow down the process even more. And believe me,
Yep.
loud and clear, frustrated as well as anybody.
This is like typical government. How many years and how many government bureaucrat idiots
And Angie,
does it take
we've
to
made
get
the
a washer?
statement before. Putting a,
I just want to acknowledge that a commissioner other than David Painter can
industrial
actually
washer
talk
and
in case
dryer
any
in
of
that
you were
building
wondering.
is not the same as you going out and buying a washer and dryer and taking it home, hooking it up. It's a government building and we have to follow.
So Bonnie Batcher and all these people think you're stupid. They have said this crap about this washer dryer, and I think we all get it. I think we get it's not the regular washer dryer like you have in your house. And we get that it's going into a government building, and we get that it needs some sort of pipes and shit for getting it to work. But how is it that we have, how many times, Bonnie, could you have like 5 more meetings where you tell us the same crap over and over again versus how you solve the problem? Any of these people in the private sector in a professional role would have long ago been fired because they would be being paid to get the project done, not to come make excuses every time like dumb government people about why they can't get shit
for
done.
us.
This as much as I do, believe me.
Dave, this lady has
And,
something.
and
to
on a
say.
side note, I instructed Angie to go ahead and put a
Hold on, let's Claire Corcoran to the rescue. Leader, Claire Corcoran. Because since we can't in a couple, 3 years, however, 5 years, 10 years, how long does it take to get a professional washer into place? So then Claire comes up with the great solution that she's going to tell them to get a regular washer while they're waiting on the multi-year
washer and dryer in, which
industrial
she
washer
did
project.
until all this got resolved. And we did it right away. I said, I don't care how cheap it is, get it in there.
Okay.
I think Claire meant to say, I don't care how much it costs, because that's not how cheap it is. She said, I don't care how cheap it is. No, she doesn't care how much it costs because they'll spend $60,000 probably on some bullshit haphazard thing. Now, let's remember, though, I just want to quote a number here. In 2020, the last year of Claremont Cares, they did 1,123 dogs and 1,203 cats. And they did all that without even having the fancy $60,000 washing machine. And these guys can't even it's again, how much effort you think it takes to change a light bulb at the animal shelter? Because these guys don't seem to be able to get anything done. And then the last clip is the anticlimactic situation with the volunteer policy.
This is the volunteer policy for the Claremont County Dog Kennel. and to authorize the implementation. We'll put a little discussion out here. We have put that out there. It went out in draft form. It was provided by a records request. In that process, there have been some people in the community that volunteer at the shelter who have sent extensive comments back to Angie. And Angie has looked at some of those comments and has relayed that some of those comments seem to should have consideration. So, yeah, one of the things I would make a motion that we table this again and to a date forthcoming so that we could actually review these comments that we've received and have an opportunity to decide if these some of them need to be incorporated and obviously reviewed by, our legal counsel.
At least take under consideration.
Absolutely. So if you are amenable to tabling that, I would ask for a motion to table.
So it gets tabled, and that's the end of the clips that I had. The joke volunteer policy. I'd already mentioned the 5 paragraphs for Hamilton County versus the 12 pages for Claremont County. But the notion that Angie got a bunch of comments, I know that it took me a little bit of time just to get a copy of the policy. I had to do a record request and then I put it online. I don't know how many people got it from me, but it's kind of like this bid thing. They don't want you to see it. They don't want you to see these things. And why wasn't there an actual process then? Hey, you know what? We could have that night meeting where they could go over this stuff and they could do it, or they could actually reach out to people that have volunteered to help them from other humane societies. They could do anything, but they don't do any of it. And it's just sad. It's pathetic. And God only knows what this volunteer policy is going to look like. Frankly, I said this back to back in the Claremont Cares era that, sometimes things need to get worse before they get better. They have definitely gotten worse, but in the words of Dan Bongino type is it bad enough yet? And sometimes, it's a very difficult thing, but sometimes covering for these people doesn't help solve the long-term problem. It makes it go on and on and on. Now, I've kind of watched some of the comments going by, and I want to just put up one of them, I think. And because I think this comment, all of this is nonsense anyway, need a new facility that is forward thinking, the ability of animals to go out and out without having to be taken outside, past 50 plus dogs, not near a shooting range, a safe place for volunteers to walk dogs. And that hits it right on the head. The best outcome to the David Painter shelter is a shitty shelter. If they could get everything fixed they want to get fixed, it is still the crappiest shelter that we could possibly have. It's by a gun range. It's not safe to walk dogs around there. My mom volunteered to do it. It's like too uneven land. You're going to get hurt trying to walk a dog around there. It doesn't have the right setting. It doesn't have the right structure. They keep adding on crap outside. We should be looking at in a humane society that was thought of as being a partner, which I don't think David Painter can partner with anybody except himself, probably. He probably loves himself. Would be looking not at a plan, not worrying about how we get a washer in, how we get a washer in for $60,000, but how do we get back to $983,000 a year in fundraising? And how do we present a vision to the community that gets them excited about a future for the animal shelter that makes us stand out positively within the region? With all the wheeling and dealing that happens, I know that I could get some people that know what they're doing to help with finding land. I know that there would be companies that would want to be part of it. I know that there would be the kind of donations coming from people that you would expect. But instead, what we have done is in almost every area, we have basically ruined the shelter by the government being more involved. Now, don't get me wrong. It was bad in the past under the humane societies, but that was largely because of the government underfunding and abusing the humane societies. Now they have made it a lot worse. And if you look at over the last 4 years, what do we have? We have a terrible shelter that only gets worse. And we also have, and I just want to hit on this too, a dog tag program. I know that, one of the ideas from the prior operator was let them use the dog tag program also as a fund drive. And that didn't happen. But what did Linda Fraley do? She outsourced the dog tag program to somebody. If you get dog tags, you know what happens. You get solicited to buy all kind of stuff for your dog. through the vendor that does the dog tag program that I have no idea how any of that benefits the shelter or why I would ever buy anything through them. All of this is sad. All of it is pathetic. The kind of my closing thoughts on all of it is it might need to get worse before it gets better. That we need to get at public participation and in other ways, unrelenting pressure. I'm going to get a copy of this bid pack. I'm sure it's stupid. Let me make a prediction that the bid pack is stupid and incompetent. And we need to, when confronting these guys, get on point. Frankly, if you want to shake their hands, if you want to tell them that they should do stuff, don't come anymore. Go get some other people to come that are going to give it to them, that are going to tell them, you have got to get a competent, humane society operating this place. And I'll say it now, I've said it before, a competent, humane society cleaning up this mess doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. It's not going to immediately get to nirvana, but I knew something that without it, it is never going to get fixed. It is never going to get fixed by Angie Livesay, by David Painter, by hiring some manager that is a lapdog to David Painter, by volunteers that will acquiesce to a 12-page belligerent contract that treats them like dirt. None of that is going to fix it. Not even a focus group is going to fix it. The only thing that can fix this is to get a competent, humane society operator in there. David Painter does not want to do that. And it's going to be one hell of a fight to keep pressing these guys to get that done. It's been 4 years. Can you believe it? 4 years of mess. Why does David Painter even want to be part of this? Anybody that was not something mentally wrong with them would have long ago acquiesced to get a humane society person in there just to take the heat off of them. In this meeting, I did the tracking, and I think it was, like an hour of the meeting almost got spent on the shelter. Every meeting they have, they're spending like an hour at least through public participation in their own annex and special presentations on the shelter. No other county commissioners in Ohio would do that. No one would be so arrogant and so full of themselves to keep fighting a Vietnam battle the way that David Painter does. We have got to keep the pressure high. We have got to I'm going to keep doing what I can do in terms of trying to bring exposure to it. It may not solve anything, but it's better than doing nothing. And in meetings, people have got to come in focused on, we need a competent shelter operator who is a humane society, that they are the ones that are in charge, not idiot David Painter or Angie, I don't know what I'm doing, Livesay. And that is the only way that we're going to get anywhere. So I'm going to call it a wrap. That's a summary of what happened on December 18th. As soon as I get a copy of the bid packet, I will talk some about the bid packet just to see what's in there, because I'm sure that it's going to be a joke. But beyond that, tell your friends, get people to watch and replay this, get people that are hardcore pipe handlers to come to public participation, and make sure that these guys keep feeling the pressure, because maybe at some point in time, they will start to relent. And I want anybody who's listening to this to also put something down on your calendar. January 15th, which is a Wednesday, that is the next Claremont County Republican Central Committee meeting at 197 East Main Street, which is the Republican headquarters. The meeting starts at 7 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock, the executive committee session starts. At about 6:45, by about 6:45 p.m., most of the people that are the regular central committee are standing in front of the building, okay? It is time to come to that meeting. The meeting is open to you. They try to arrest me if I go to it because I'm outspoken against corruption in the Republican Party in Claremont County. But if I'm an elected committeeman, but I've been threatened to get arrested. But on January 15th, that Wednesday, all you people that love animals, come to the Republican Central Committee meeting. It's at night, 197 East Main Street. David Painter is the executive committee chair of the party. It is a meeting that is open to the public. There's a kind of side gallery of chairs where you can sit in. If you get there, 6:30 before the regular meeting starts, you can go and get you can talk to people on the street about your disgust with David Painter, Claire Corcoran, and Bonnie Batchelor. most of them will be there. Jeff Corcoran, Claire Corcoran's husband, is the chair of the Central Committee. So January 15th, I won't be able to be there. I won't physically be in Cincinnati. But if you can get there and get your friends to get there, let these people know. These people know that you are disgusted with the way the Republican Party and David Painter has mismanaged this animal shelter. And with that, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for listening and have a great rest of the evening. And hopefully, let's just keep hope alive that we will eventually persevere.